Hi, this is Megan with Beadaholique, and today I'm going to show you how to add a button and loop clasp to a bead woven bracelet. So I'm going to use a beaded bead that I made for my button. You can also use a shank button. We have a video on how to do a right angle beaded bead, so you can watch that video if you want to use a bead like this. If you are going to use the beaded bead, go ahead and when you finish up and you tie the knot at the end, don't trim your tail threads. And you want to go ahead and give yourself a longer tail to start with so that you have a nice long length of thread on both ends. Now I'm going to attach this to a strip of peyote that I made just to show how to do it. It might be very slightly different depending on what stitch you're using, based on what the edging looks like. So this is peyote for reference. The first thing I want to do is add a bead or two onto both strands coming out of the bead. If you're going to use a shank button, then you can just take your thread through the shank button and then add the beads onto the two threads that come down from there. So I'm only using one needle for this, so you can switch them back and forth, or if you're using a nice sturdy thread like Wildfire, you can usually get it through a couple of beads pretty easily and not have to put a needle on there for that. And then go ahead and pull that down. And what that's going to do, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to bring your threads together, and two, it's going to space the bead out a little bit from the project. So you can put 1, 2, 3, you can put however many you want, how far out you want to space it. So I just put a couple on there for right now. Okay, then I'm going to put another bead on just one side. And I'm going to go through, you can pick where you want your button or your bead. I'm going to put one at the end here. You can put them in the middle, you can put two on the ends. I'm just going to show you on the end so that we could say we're going to put one here and one here. I'll just show you with one, of course. Okay, you're going to bring that one through there. And then weave in to your piece. Careful not to catch the other side. And go ahead and weave in enough that you feel like you're giving yourself a nice stable foundation for this. It's going to get pulled on, so you want to make sure that it's strong. And then you're just going to tie off and weave in your end on there. And we do have a video on how to do that, how to tie off and weave in your ends. I think it's called how to tie off and add new thread. Just do the first part and don't add new thread. Then you're going to put a needle on your second strand, grab one bead on that strand, and again, go into the other side there. Okay, then you're going to weave in this side as well, and again you want to make it nice and strong. And then you will tie off and weave in that end as well. So you can see that with a peyote, and I'm using a smaller bead to attach it than I did to weave it, it sits very nicely between these beads in this top row here. So if you're going to add this to another weave, you just need to kind of experiment and see how it sits best and how many beads you want to add to your connecting piece. So that's how you add on the ball. Okay, and then to attach the loop on the other end of your strip, just go ahead and get yourself another length of thread. And I'm going to have the loop come, you can either go around a single bead sticking up, or you can come out of a little ditch. It really depends if your weaving is symmetrical or if it's on the different, ended on a different row. So right now, what's going to be directly across from my button, my beaded bead, is another spot in the weave where it goes in. So I'm going to need to attach it there. So what I'm going to do is, to start, I'm going to weave up through the last few rows. Leave yourself a tail so that you can weave that in. And now I'm going to string some beads, and I'm going to string a few and then check the length and then keep working until I find the right length. You want to be able to make a loop that is going to hold tightly, but still going to be able to go somewhat easily around your button or your bead, because you don't want it to fall off, but you also don't want it to be really hard to get it on and off. Especially if you're using a woven bead like that, it'll put a lot of stress on it if it's too tight. So once you have some beads, you can just kind of hold it in a loop and check it out and see what you think about the size. It should fit around your bead. And this one looks like it's actually plenty big already. I'm going to go ahead and take a couple of beads off and try it that way. If you're doing multiple clasps along the edge, it's really easy. Once you've got it for one, it should all be the same. So now here you could go through the beads that stand up and make a nice loop like that. That's a complete circle. Or what I'm going to do in this case to have it line up better with my bead is I'm going to just go through the next one there, and it's going to make more of a loop instead of a circle. You can do it either way. So go ahead and put it through and then try it. You still might need to make some adjustments to make sure it's going to fit. But I want to kind of get an idea of whether or not it's the right size. And go ahead and hold your thread tight and try it out. And this is still a little bit big. So it is just a matter of getting the right size. So I took off a couple of beads. And again, when you're weaving in your ends for this, you want to make sure that you weave them in nice and strong. If you can loop them around to meet up and tie a square knot between your ends, that will make them really sturdy. Your clasp is obviously going to have stress on it, so you always want to make sure that you're making it as secure as possible. So I'm just going to bring it back around so that they are meeting and tie a knot. And then you would, of course, weave in those ends. As you can see, I now have my loop on this side and lined up on that side. I have my beaded bead or button or whatever you want to put. And it's going to hold that nicely and have a really pretty look. That's how you're going to attach a bead and loop or button and loop clasp.